Hey y'all, Shelly here with another tip for hospice nurses. So I'm continuing on with my series about how to protect ourselves in the event that our company or, God forbid, us are named in a malpractice suit against the hospice. And so as I said last week, we're seeing this more and more often, so we want to be very aware of it when we're doing things. So what I'm going to talk about today is a simple tip, but critically important. And that is take the time to make sure that the correct consents are signed and signed by the appropriate person before you go in and start giving care to this patient. So as nurses, before we touch a patient and do care, we need to have consent to do so. So obviously the best choice to sign the consent is going to be the patient. And if the patient is alert and able to sign, they should be the ones to sign the consent. If they're not, if they're too debilitated, or if they have a diagnosis of dementia, they're not able to sign the consents, then the next in line to sign would be the person with legal medical power of attorney, which, a lot of people don't have that in place already. So if they don't have that, it would be their legal spouse. After their spouse would be children, and then siblings, and then you would go down the line for next of kin until you got to whoever their next of kin is. If they don't have a spouse and they don't have kids, you have to keep going down the line to see who would be able to sign. Where I see it can get confusing and it can get kind of muddy the water sometimes is if the person has lived with somebody for many years. They have a partner, their life partner, but they don't have a legal marriage. Every state has different laws, so make sure you know those laws. And if there's any question, if this person is able to sign this consent, I would involve your boss, the social worker, get someone else to help you to make the decision about if they can sign the consent. Also can get tricky if they have a bunch of kids, and if you have any feeling that maybe there's going to be some controversy or some discord between the children, involve the social worker with getting the consents and making sure that we have the appropriate person sign the consents. Also, if they live out of state, that can be tricky too. Every place has its own laws, so you want to involve your boss and the social worker and everyone in getting these consents signed. And if you look at the consent and you have a question about who it is that signed the consent, I would stop before I did any care on that patient and clarify. For instance, if you had a patient that lives in a group home, the owner of the group home cannot sign consents on behalf of that patient unless they have legal medical power of attorney. So I would not provide care for that patient until that was sorted out and I was sure that we had a legal binding consent to provide care. That protects you. And it protects you, and it's also you're doing the right thing as the patient advocate to make sure that this person's wishes are being carried out the way that they should be. So I hope this tip was helpful. If you have any tips that would be helpful for hospice nurses, please let me know. I'd love to share them here. And remember, together we can change our world.